Today I'm going to be talking about Eternal Blue, WannaCry, Petya, and other stuff related to this. But first, my name is Steve Smith. This is TQA Weekly, and I'm going to say this only once. Don't pay the ransom. Look at the last month. The NSA lost control of one of their tools called Eternal Blue, which is an exploit that actually uses SMBv1 as a vector to allow for intrusion into computers, basically without any effort whatsoever. This has led to viruses like WannaCry and Petya existing in the current world. And a lot of these viruses, what they have in common is the ability to encrypt all of your files uncontrolled and demand ransom to decode all of your files, otherwise you lose them for all eternity. These are current modern problems that can be dealt with in several ways, which do not require you to pay anything whatsoever as long as you're aware of how to prevent this kind of stuff from ever affecting you in any serious fashion. Let's start off with users. I've been around for 7 years doing YouTube shows, and I have said it a lot, and I have lost count of how many times I have said it, but don't open email attachments, and of course, maintain backups, especially cold storage. If you don't open email attachments, even from people that you know, that vector by itself already closes most virus infections of your computers. Though it's not impossible to get infected, if you maintain backups, especially cold storage, then you're less likely to lose all of your information. For those that don't know what cold storage means, it means hard drives that are not constantly connected, mass drives that are not constantly powered, and of course optical media, because that is ever unchanging after they are burned. If you have backups of all of your files, then the next time you're infected, you're not going to necessarily want to pay the ransom, because why would you care? You already have all of your files. You would just format and restart, which brings us to a very important part of the discussion. It is possible for you to lose your files even if you paid a ransom. What am I getting to? NotPetya is not a ransomware virus. It is a file destructor. What this group has done is taken a tool that is Eternal Blue that uses an exploit, use ransomware, streamline the process in a way where you think you can get your files back by paying in Bitcoin and just not allow you to decode any of your files, which is basically tantamount to file destruction. This wouldn't affect you if you had backups. And you wouldn't even bother trying to pay that ransom, which you can't get reimbursed for, by the way, if you had backups, because you would just format. It would literally lower the incentive to do so if nobody bothered to pay that ransom. And lowering the incentive to do that kind of attack means that you're going to be basically suffocating the greed out of them. These groups are going to have to find different exploits and different methods in order to sustain their greed. And as long as we don't feed into it, that won't be a problem. Which brings us to businesses, by the way. NotPetya spread in a different way other than file attachments. We know that by keeping our software up to date, we mitigate a lot of risks of being infected because a lot of exploits are actually patched for. But this doesn't help anybody if malicious groups target your company and exploit your servers and infect people through an update server, which is how NotPetya actually spread. By injecting NotPetya as part of the update routine of specific software available in a company in the Ukraine, many users got infected in this way. And it uses the same exploit as WannaCry developed by the NSA Eternal Blue, which means it then further spread the SMBv1 exploit as a worm, which means it didn't even have to install to other computers, meaning that it could basically cause havoc on many infrastructures. And there is a link in the show notes that actually explains what happened to them. Now, there are a few things that businesses can do. One is maintain backups of their own documents, obviously. Make sure that all of their hardware and software is up to date. This includes firmware. Make sure that you train your employees and not being fooled by people calling up or emailing and having them divulge information about the infrastructure as well as how the business works, or even giving up their passwords over the phone. Because the human element is usually how people get into the infrastructures or get the information they need to access the infrastructure. This is why companies like Microsoft, which mostly hire programmers and engineers that know what they're doing, have fewer problems than other smaller companies that have a few really talented employees or just uninformed employees that are talented in different areas. If you train them correctly, you're basically suffocating the human weakness inside of those companies. If there is no human weakness, the majority of the flaws that would exist for them to exploit are basically masked by disinformation or no information available whatsoever, especially if you're always applying all the updates as you should. So ignoring the human element, we have less and less access to the information, which is, by the way, another thing that we should keep in mind. When businesses do things right, it comes with really spectacular tools. So it's important for us to think about this and thank Microsoft for finally coming up with this tool. As part of Windows Defender, as soon as September or even October of 2017, you will have something called controlled folder access. Controlled folder access will allow for primary folders like my pictures, my videos, my documents, and all that, and other folders that you specify to only allow whitelisted applications to modify the files within. What this means is viruses will no longer have the rights required to screw around with your files anymore. By doing this, it further de-incentivizes these malicious groups from touching your files because they won't be able to anymore whatsoever. So as soon as that comes out and everybody migrates over to that by updating their Windows 10 client to this, the less likely we are going to have these kind of widespread attacks. Like this episode if you like, dislike it if you didn't, share with those that you think benefit from this, and don't forget to subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions for topics, email me at ask@tqaweekly.com, or go to my website, tqaweekly.com, for everything else. And if you want to make this show better, go to patreon.com/tqaweekly, and patrons get these episodes 24 hours in advance of everyone else. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.